I love working with Haifa. I mean, we've been working together since COVID. We were only seeing each other and just going to the studio every day and working on her album. Haifa is somebody who loves music more than you can imagine. I feel like she's not passionate about anything as much as she's passionate about music, and she likes to experiment, and she's the type of person who gives you carte blanche to do whatever it is that you feel. So I think Haifa was one of the artists I experimented with the most. She's really incredible. I enjoy working with her.
Welcome to Afikra. This is another episode of Quarter Tones. My name is Mikey Mhenna. Today on this series, I have Sleiman Damien, who is a musician, music producer, DJ, extraordinaire from Lebanon, and has worked with so many artists. The list is too long to list. Sleiman, welcome to Afikra.
Thank you so much, Mikey. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for the opportunity of having me here. I really appreciate it.
It's a privilege for us. I want to ask you about 3 words, and I want to see how you feel about these 3 words.
Okay, cool.
Arab pop fusion. Because when I read about you online, I see this phrase a lot. And I wonder how you feel about this phrase.
هلا هي شوي قريبة على سليمان داميان لأنه الفيوجن جاية مع الأرب بوب. هي سليمان داميان على فكرة أنا من الشوف. بس أجنبناها شوي. لك أرب بوب فيوجن ما بعرف إذا فيوجن لازم تكون موجودة بالمعادلة. كلمة فيوجن بحسها كتير غريبة. لأنه يعني I don't think
أصلاً what are you fusing?
صح إنه it's Arab pop يعني إنه it's like popular Arabic music. هلا so far it's generally popular بالterritories تبعنا, بس إنه with the way things are developing it's starting to become more and more popular بمطارح غير, مش حتى بمنطلق إنه it's world music, بس إنه it's just pop music in a different language. The same way you have like K-pop, you wouldn't call it, Korean pop fusion. It's K-pop,
صح.
Yeah.
Are you if I went back to the Sleiman of the early 90s, what were you listening to at the time?
Backstreet Boys mainly. Like صراحة I didn't grow up listening to a lot of Arabic music. My dad introduced me to jazz music very early on, but as a kid it's a bit hard to digest and to understand, so you gravitate towards things that are more palatable وأهين تسمعهم. So I used to listen to a lot of pop music like any kid right up until my teenage years, and then I went into metal music, which is a weird transition because like most of the pop producers that were working back then and making music for the Backstreet Boys and people like that came from a metal background and moved over to pop. So I moved to metal music and then moved to jazz again, because metal music didn't feel intellectual enough for me, because at that point making music becomes sort of an intellectual exercise if you're not too careful. And then I went back to pop, honestly. I went back to, listening to stuff from the 80s, stuff from the 70s, then back to stuff from the 90s.
You're like Pantera, Miles Davis, Backstreet Boys.
Yeah, exactly. But it went full circle. Like it was Backstreet Boys, Pantera, and then, like even weirder stuff, then jazz music, then Backstreet Boys.
So funny.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing music?
Playing music, I really don't remember. I mean, I know that my grandparents had a very old piano in their house, and I used to mess around on it when I was a kid. I think my dad bought me my first electric guitar when I was 13 or something, and I was obsessed with my guitar, and that was my metal phase.
Yeah.
But I never really took it seriously. I took very sporadic lessons, started a few bands, got kicked out from all of them because I never was a really good musician to begin with.
And you start playing I Want It That Way covers. And dude, we don't want I Want It That Way.
Yeah. So yeah, that's sort of how I started playing music.
How funny. But so when did you start thinking that, okay, all right, I'm getting kicked out of bands, but I think I might be able to pay my bills this way. I think I might be able to be a songwriter. I think I might be able to help in the songwriting process.
Yeah,
I
think
when did
that's
you
a
make
good,
that switch?
there's a good 6-7 years between those two events. So I was always starting bands because I always wanted to be involved in something that is related to music in a way or another. And I really never could find it in myself to practice enough to be a good musician, like a good performing artist. I didn't have the discipline. I would get bored really easily. So when I'm doing exercises on my guitar, I just, switch back to the same blues scale that I'm comfortable with, and I play the same lick over and over again rather than, put in the effort. So I kind of, not dropped it for a while, but sort of lost interest until my dad got me like a CD with, all of these pirated software for making music,
Fruity
like
Loops.
Fruity Loops and stuff, but like the very early versions.
Yeah, of course.
My dad played a really big part in me becoming a musician because he's not a musician, but he's a music lover. And, we always had music around the house, and he was always trying to expose me to new stuff. And at the time he got me the software, all of my friends were listening to trance music because that was the trend in Lebanon. You used to have like every couple of days Tiesto and Armin van Buuren and all that stuff performing in Lebanon. I never was interested in that music in the beginning, but when I got the software, this was the type of music that I generally gravitated to because of all the stuff that was happening around me, and because it sort of makes sense. Fruity Loops is a loop-based software. It used to be, at least now it's a lot more advanced and complex. So that was the easiest music to make for me. So I was just remaking Adagio for strings by Tiesto.
Yeah,
just for fun.
In the little boxes.
Exactly.
Clicking the little boxes.
Exactly. And I fell in love with it because I didn't have to be good at music in real time. I just had to be good at, sort of envisioning music and find ways to build it. And I still think this is my forte because I don't really play any instruments well. I dabble a little bit because you need to understand the instruments that you're writing for. But for me, it's much easier to sort of envision something and create it, and maybe hire somebody incredible to play it, to record the part, or have program it on a virtual instrument or something like that. So when that happened, I kept making music over and over and over again every day. That I was addicted to it, sort of like going back home and playing World of Warcraft until 3 a.m. in the morning. That was my thing, but except it was music. And eventually, I started meeting some people, producing some small projects. Then I started ghost producing for a really big Arabic music producer that I will not be naming. And once that happened, I started making a good income out of it. At least for my age, I was 18, and I was making enough to sort of help support my family and have a little pocket money and live a life that I would like to live at 18.
What does it feel like to be a ghost producer?
It's awful. I don't regret it because I actually was paid for it and I agreed to it, but I was a kid. But it's horrible because you're not getting credited for the work that you do. So when this guy and I,
had a falling out,
a really big one, and I had like a few hits in the market at 18 and 19. I couldn't capitalize on those to, drive in new clients, new artists that wanted to work with me. And I actually dropped out of college when I started working with him. I was learning architecture at Alba. I did like half a semester. But when I found myself, making an income out of this, I dropped out of college and I was, pursuing this full time. When I had a falling out with him, I just, spent a couple of years with nothing to my name and with no clients to speak of whatsoever because nobody knew who I was.
And you couldn't tell anybody?
I mean, I could, but it would be my word against his. And at the time, it just didn't feel like it was a hill I wanted to die on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How common is that?
It is quite common, actually, especially in the Arab world. I mean, it's fine to hire somebody to help you out with a project or to co-produce something with someone. I do that a lot, but I always make sure I credit them. But there's a really big ego problem with music professionals in the region, especially the old guard, like the people who were really popular 10 years ago and were the main industry names back then. I feel like the new generation isn't like that. Everybody's more open to collaboration and try to keep their egos in check and try to give credit where it's due.
It's crazy to think about like what that would do to your self-esteem and sense of purpose and trust, and like how long did it take to get to the point where you could trust collaborators again?
Actually, it didn't really have any impact on my self-esteem back then because at the time I really only cared that it was bringing me income, and seeing these songs become successful even without my name on them, it just felt nice. And I didn't really understand the value of putting your name on something until I stopped having an income and stopped having clients, but it was easy for me to trust collaborators again, because another producer I met about a year later is Michel Fadel. He's an incredible composer, music producer, pianist. He's a really dope guy. I met him, we became friends, and he called me up. He told me he has a song that he wanted me to produce for Carole Samaha because it wasn't, his style. He's more into the orchestral stuff. I was making a bit more electronic stuff back then. So he recommended me to Carole, and I got the job, and the song was a massive hit, and he didn't even credit himself for it. I got credited for it, and I produced the whole thing, and I got paid my whole fee. So it's not like everybody is out to get you. It's just that some people are.
Yeah. So that hit 2014. Okay. I want to play a little bit of that.
Yeah, that song was the first hit I had my name on. It really changed my career completely. I'll play some of it for you.
Let's play some of it because I'm curious to see how you feel.
So the production sort of aged because it's 9 years ago, but it's a good song, right? It's catchy. I think it still gets a lot of rotation in clubs. People still like it. I want
to ask you, what metrics do you care about? Do you care about people dancing? Do you care about replays? Do you care about quotables? Do you care about prestige? What do you care about?
The thing I care about most before the song is released, while I'm still working on it, to convey the emotional message properly. So if the song is supposed to make you dance, my production should help facilitate that. If the song should help you get over a bad breakup, my production should help facilitate that, etc. So this is what I care about. After it's released, first off, I care about whether people like it or not, because you can always put out something العالم ما يحبوه يحسوها بشعة الأغنية. And I care about the numbers a lot, but I also care about the organic engagement the song is getting. So sometimes you have songs that are not getting tens of millions of streams, but every day I get tagged in 20, 30 covers of the song on Instagram. So it sort of resonated with people, just in a different way. So as long as it resonates with people, I'm happy, whether it's through numbers or whether it's through, engagement.
Yeah. And like working with Carole in that example, right?
Yeah.
How do you ideally, and maybe in the early part of your careers, beggars can't be choosers, but what does it look like to work with a singer when it's going extremely well? And what does it look like to work with a singer where it's a nightmare?
Wow. Okay, working with Carole is always a pleasure. I'm still working with her now. We did like 3 or 4 songs recently, and we're gonna work on a couple of them, in a month. She's great to work with. She's a really good musician. She knows her stuff, so I like that. When I produced the song, I didn't have as much. How should I call it? يعني رأيي ما كان له تقل قد ما رأيي له تقل هلا. So if there was something that I didn't like and the artist liked, it would be an automatic veto from the artist, right? So the in the song, I really didn't want to put those, but this is something the artist wanted back then. Now, retrospectively, I'm glad we did, because they sound good. I mean, I feel like they helped the song in a way, because it's part of what makes it catchy. Right now, my process is a little bit different, because a lot of the artists that come to me that want to work with me, they want to do so because what I try to create is usually something that's different, and they usually approach me because they want to get out of their comfort zone. So with most artists, the process is really, 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 really smooth. But sometimes, you face situations where there is a tangible lack of alignment in the vision for the song, and when that happens, rather than pick a battle, I sort of pull out and tell them that maybe I'm not the right person for the job, and I would make recommendations for somebody who can help them achieve what they are seeing. But that's an extreme scenario where I find it impossible to really align with the artist's vision, and that's very, very, very rare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Because, it's funny, before the conversation, before we spoke, the first time I met you, we were talking about, okay, what are some of the songs we want to choose for the interview, because it's quarter tones. And both of us were sort of scratching our heads, because your discography is huge and with so many different types of characters.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put you in a position that maybe you have not been before.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you about some of these characters.
Okay.
And let's contrast some of their musical style when working with them.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So somebody like Georges Wassouf.
Yeah.
What's it like working with Georges Wassouf?
Intense. Very, very, very intense, as you would imagine, but also, a blessing, because, he's an awesome guy. He's a legend, he's like our very own Elvis Presley. He's a rock star. He's the king of Tarab. So it was, surreal working with him. He's I don't know. He's a bit difficult, but rightly so. When you get to this position in your career, you sort of feel things that other people won't be able to feel. So I was always trying to accommodate that. One issue that we faced was his health has been deteriorating sadly for the last few years, and this put a really big strain on our schedule, because we had to do a lot of different sessions in order to get the material that we wanted, and a lot of revisions and a lot of things, and tying this with whatever was going with him personally was difficult. The song actually took a year to produce, but it was one of the most interesting experiences in my career so far.
What is it like working with Haifa Wehbe?
Amazing. I love working with Haifa. I mean, we've been working together since COVID. We were only seeing each other and just going to the studio every day and working on her album. I think we did like 16 songs, and we're still making some more songs. Haifa is somebody who loves music more than you can imagine. I feel like she's not passionate about anything as much as she's passionate about music, and she likes to experiment, and she's the type of person who gives you carte blanche. I'm not sure how you would say that in English.
Carte blanche.
Okay, cool. To do whatever it is that you feel, if it sounds good. So I think Haifa was one of the artists I experimented with the most. At least one of the mainstream artists that I experimented with the most. She's really incredible. I enjoy working with her.
Whenever I see pop stars who have staying power, multiple decade-long staying power, I always think to myself, this person must have a superpower.
Yeah.
What is Haifa's superpower?
I don't think you need a superpower to have staying power. I think you just have to have been making music 10 years ago at least, because I don't feel like anybody right now is able to capitalize on their own staying power because of how music is consumed and because how fast everything is changing. I feel like it was much easier in the studio fan days to become huge and stay that way.
Oh, interesting. So basically the legacy stars can stay stars.
Yeah.
But the system as it's set up right now is not producing long term.
It makes it incredibly difficult to create artists with staying power right now. And it's even making it much more difficult to create stars, because right now it's all about the song. It's not about the artist anymore, which may or may not be a bad thing or a good thing. But generally, these days you just have a bunch of one-hit wonders who end up disappearing, or who end up folding back to their niche, and then they can have another hit, but it's not homogeneous and
steady.
Not steady. Another thing. So steady works. For it to create, a superstar the way that Haifa Wehbe is, or Georges Wassouf is, or Ahlam is, or I think it's. I think it's just a different ball game right now. But to clarify, I'm not belittling the awesomeness of the people who managed to make it as staying stars.
Yeah. So let's talk about a more contemporary singer. So like somebody like Dana Hourani, who has established herself as having a huge following. Dana, if you're listening to this, I really want you to be on the Quarter Tones. It's interesting to hear it's interesting to investigate how somebody like that is in the studio versus a legacy superstar like Haifa. Is there any sort of differences in how you work with either of them?
Okay, so first off, let me tell you that Dana is one of my closest friends on the planet. I was actually gonna wear her merch t-shirt to this, but then I changed my mind because she sent me an XXL, and I'm like 160 centimeters, so it's basically a dress on me.
It's based on your talent. You're an XXL talent.
Yeah, thank you. So and not only am I producing her music and have produced her last album, I'm actually consulting on her entire musical career right now, and we're doing some really interesting stuff. I couldn't be prouder of what we've achieved so far and what we're planning to achieve. to get back to your question, هي منا قصة إنه الفرق بين إنه الشغل بين حدا مع حدا established وحدا مش established. هي إجمالاً أو حدا huge أو حدا niche artist أو حدا developing وحدا already صار له 10 سنين مكسر الدنيا. هي التريب إنه كل artist عنده التريب تبعه، عنده طريقة كيف بيفكر وكيف بيشتغل وكيف بيحس الأمور. So it's really difficult to put, to have like these two categories and to compare both. But I can compare Haifa to Dana, definitely. With Dana specifically, it's not about being more adventurous than with Haifa, because with Haifa we were experimenting a lot and we were being very adventurous, but Haifa still has, a sort of responsibility to make a hit after a hit after a hit after a hit. And Dana, still hasn't had one mega hit. She's had songs that were successful in her audience, but she hasn't had like a pan-Arab song that's, a household name that my grandma could know and my little sister could know. So so there's more experimentation with Dana specifically, because we're still trying to find, the right sound for her, the sound that will, make Dana a household name rather than a very successful and beloved niche artist.
Yeah. Okay, let's listen to another track just so we can get more familiar.
Cool.
What's the next track that you have in mind?
I think since we're talking about Dana, I think we should listen to the last single we dropped.
وحدك انت انا مني هيك ما بعرف شو صار كنت وحدي مرتاحة وحدة وصرت وحدي غير كله من ايديك بتطلع بالمراية بلاقي حالي مني حالي وبقول ان شاء الله خير
So walk me through the writing process.
Okay.
For this song.
This song. So طريقة كيف عم نشتغل كنا أنا ودانا اللي صار هو إنه she approached me a couple of less than a couple of years ago to consult on her new album and to help her, develop her new sound, because she wanted to evolve from the sound that was created for her first album. So what we did is that we started scouting for lyrics, for melodies, for top lines. Dana doesn't write her own music. She likes to bring in people and have, a team sort of brainstorm. And she always had, has a big part of the creative process معها, بس إنه she likes involving a lot of people بالفاينل product. المشكلة اللي وقعنا فيها إنه الكلام اللبناني كيف بينكتب طريقته is a bit محدود. يعني القوافي بعضها هي ذاتها صار لها 30 سنة وكتير صعب تطلع منهم بلا ما يكون شيء كتير تقيل وثقيل على الدينة. كتير صعب توصل فكرة جديدة بطريقة كيف بينكتب الكلام اللبناني هلأ، وكتير صعب انك تطلع من طريقة كيف بينكتب هذا الكلام اللبناني بلا ما تكون كتير مزعج على سمع الاودينسز اللي رح يسمعوك. فتعذبنا كتير بقصة الكلام. كان انه finding melodies was very easy، بس انه finding somebody to write something to them was always hard. So I ended up teaching myself how to write Arabic songs just for this project. بس لقدر جرب to experiment، لأنه كمان كتير صعب تلاقي حدا مستعد يعمل experimentation معك بالكلام. في كثير عالم كثير شاطرين وبيعملوا قصص بيجننوا، بس انه مش الشيء اللي هي عبالها تقوله، عرفت؟ في منه قدرنا ناخد الكلام واللحن خالص. هيدا الغنية انعملت اخر دقيقة لانه خلص كان صار وقت انه we have to release، بس we don't have a good first، مش a good first release and they're all good songs بالالبوم، بس we wanted something upbeat with a positive message, you know يعني adequate for the summer. And we have a few of those but they're collabs. وما كان بدنا to drop أول غنية as a collab or a duet. We wanted to be, you know, a solo single. في ملحن اسمه تايم, a composer. He's also a music producer and a lyricist. He's great. بجنن. He sent a top line as a voice note with different lyrics. We didn't, you know, vibe with the lyrics, but we loved the melody. حكيتها قلت لها do you vibe with this melody؟ قالت لي ايه. سكرت معها. 10 minutes later I had written the lyrics and I sent them to her and she loved them. So we're like, cool, we have our song now. I have to get to producing it.
But you say we have the song. Did you have this like Caribbean background? None of that stuff.
No. And I was planning to, you know, do like a acoustic Americana pop sort of thing for it. You know, sort of like a Taylor Swift meets Ed Sheeran sort of thing. But Dana really didn't want that. She wanted something upbeat. So I experimented with the Afrobeat, you know, template with this melody, and it felt odd to me initially, but it then grew on me sort of. Dana absolutely loved it, but she was telling me that something was missing, and we were trying to figure out what was the thing that was missing. And then she calls me in the middle of the night and she says, strings, we gotta have strings, staccato strings in the chorus. It's like, this doesn't make sense, you know, staccato strings, orchestral elements on an Afrobeat song. It felt too serious and dramatic. So it's like, I'm not even gonna try it. And she's like, please try it. I finally agreed to it and it sounded dope. I mean, it really gave a different dimension for the chorus. So once that element fell in place, the entire song made sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
So for something like this, when it goes out, I kind of asked you this earlier with Haifa, and once it goes out, do you feel like, all right, my job is done? Or are you like checking to see engagement? Are you obsessed with if people are liking it? Are you checking with your musician friends? Are you speaking to labels? Are you seeing views and likes and all that stuff?
Constantly. And, you know, with every artist I work with, you know, I get obsessed with the numbers and with the comments and with the engagement and just constantly researching and talking to people and checking how the song is doing. I think I'm the only producer in the region who actually pays for, what's it called? Chart metric. Because it's like really expensive, and you know, usually labels use it to gauge an artist's success and their development, etc. And you know, I'm obsessed with it, and it's on a permanent tab on my computer. And with Dana specifically, since I'm consulting on the entire project, you know, I'm a big part of the day-to-day of checking with the label. She wasn't with the label. She's independent, and we distributed this with Empire. But Empire now offered her a record deal, and looks like she's gonna go for it. Hopefully, maybe by the time this gets released, the deal would be done or not. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. So so I'm constantly on calls with Suhail, just checking on everything, seeing what's happening with editorial, how are the DSPs reacting to the release, what are our organic numbers, and we try to keep the song as organic as possible. If you look at the numbers, you know, they're not huge, but you know, everybody's happy with the song and the feedback is incredible, and we're happy with that.
Does the obsession about the numbers help your mental health or destroy your mental health?
You know, it really doesn't affect it. Like, okay, so like I have a lot of mental health issues. I'm diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder, and I take meds for it, and a lot of things trigger me. But 99.99% it has nothing to do with music or my career or the numbers. The numbers it's not that I'm obsessed with them. It's they tell you things. They make you understand things if you look at them in the right way. So if you look at a YouTube video and you see like 100 million streams and call it successful and call it a day, you're looking at it wrong, because you have to understand what sort of engagement these numbers are getting you, and how are people reacting to the songs. If you're getting these numbers but people hate the song, that's obviously not the best thing on the planet, unless your primary intention in making the song is to make them hate the song. My obsession is with how people feel about what we've created.
Let me say that again. So your obsession is understanding how people feel about what you created.
Yeah.
Do you have an intended feeling you want them to feel with every single track?
Of course, because every song is supposed to convey an emotional message. If we're talking about pop, at least,
sure,
maybe
yeah.
Experimental something is not sure, but with pop music, every song is supposed to make you feel a certain thing. If it's a breakup song, it's supposed to make you feel sad or empowered, or depending on what the lyrics are and the melody is trying to convey. If it's a pop song telling you to raise your hands in the air and pop a bottle, it's supposed to make you dance and spend more money on alcohol in a club. So there is a sort of intentionality with everything that gets released, and a good indicator of whether you did your job well is if the song actually got people to feel the way the song is supposed to make them feel. One example that comes to mind that achieves this on a very, very small scale, and that's not even a song. It was an interlude I created for Adonis's album, one of Adonis's albums.
Yeah.
I composed it, I performed it, I recorded it. It was like my own thing, and it's just a little transitional moment in the album. And back then I was reading a lot of Mark Fisher, and I was obsessed with hauntology and nostalgia for things that never were and all of that. And I wanted to convey that feeling. So when I created this piece that I'll play right now and show you the first comment.
The first comment.
Okay, so literally the first comment is, somehow this makes me feel nostalgic over memories I never lived. So when I saw that, I knew I had done my job well, because this was what I was trying to convey, and at least one people felt it and commented about it, and it had like 39 people who agreed to it. With 17k views, so that's really good engagement for 17k views.
Yeah, it's not like you like told all your friends to press like.
No, check it.
Let's hear it.
What do you think?
Really nice.
Is it giving Mark Fisher vibes?
Yeah. I like the backwards, the flipped little soundbite at the end.
Yeah.
Super nice.
Cool.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the metrics thing, because very much I'm asking for a friend, like,
cool.
no, the number of stories of creators and creatives who exist in a very sort of online social media marketplace, who have completely burnt out and washed out on shores because of the necessary obsession with metrics. It's baked into everything you do. You have to be checking number of likes and views and engagement and reach and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and kids born after 2005 basically are native. They think in those terms. It's completely their first language.
Yeah.
So as somebody who kind of works in this world, I can see the creeping feelings of that, right? I can start to taste that burnout, like, oh my God, like I got to get off this. I got to get off my equivalent of chart metrics. So I'm asking you because your work is dealing with and in the exchange of popularity. You're making music that is interested in popularity, right?
Yeah.
That's the exchange rate that you deal with.
I agree.
So how do you avoid the crushing weight of the possible defeat that the things that you're trying to make popular are not popular?
Okay, so تريب أول شيء إنه it's always been there. إنه من أول ما بلشت الموسيقى تشتغل ككوموديتي جوات الرأسمالية، في تشارتس وفي ألبوم سيلز وبيطلع لك بلاتينوم هيدا، وفي جراميز بيكون في فوت، يعني في كذا مطرح وين إنه you are being judged على أنت الشيء اللي أنت عامله، وهذا الشيء ممكن يزيد لك من البوبولاريتي تبعك أو يقلل لك من البوبولاريتي تبعك اللي بينربط دايركتلي بالماتيريال كونديشنز تبعك انت كارتست. the more popular you are, the more money you're gonna make. the less popular you are, the more likely it is انه عم تشتغل شيء ما خصه بالموسيقى لتقدر تعيش، لتكون قادر انه تجرب تضلك تعمل موسيقى اللي هو منه احلى شيء بالعالم. فطول عمرها موجوده، هلا بس اسرع وعلى سكيل كثير اكسسبل وهيك عشوائيه اكثر. والسيجنيفايرز كتروا، يعني الماتريكس هن بحد ذاتهم صاروا كتير كتار و you're constantly bombarded with them. So obviously it can't be good for your mental health. بس انه يعني بس انه يعني منا انه الشيء الوحيد، يعني بعرف argument كثير بشع انه منا الشيء الوحيد، بس انه ما في شيء طبيعي بالدنيا هلا. عارف شو قصدي؟ يعني مش بس على صعيد ال exchange of popularity. يعني ما بدي يكون كثير ثقيل، بس انه هي هيك شكلها. عرفت شو قصدي؟ وانه unless انه يعني عم نشتغل كلنا يعني in an organized fashion to dismantle it ونحط شيء تاني محلها، انه راح تضلها هيك. عرفت؟ ويلي عباله يلعب الاكسرسايز انه يكون ارتست ويلعب لعبة الارت as a commodity جوات الرأسمالية، انه بده يتحمل انه يكون mental health issues تبعه عم يجوا من الشارتس من الماتريكس. عرفت؟ يعني ما يعني I feel no sympathy for somebody, you know, an artist getting burned out because of their numbers. No, don't be an artist. Be something else.
Interesting. It's cool. It's a tough take.
Yeah, but it's not tough. It's not tough يعني بمنطلق انه هيك صح وشدوا حالكم. بالعكس انا مع انه يعني تبطل كوموديتي اصلا. عارف شو قصدي؟ هي وغير اشياء. بس انه بهلا الوضع الحالي خيي انه يعني يا اما we break it down بنعمر شيء محلها، يا اما اللي بده يضلوا عم يلعب اللعبه يتحمل اللعبه كيفيه.
Yeah, it's like you're telling somebody who wants to go play football, and no, you're going to get injured, you're going to sweat a lot, you're going to hurt your ankles, you're going to do everything, but that's the game.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is.
Yeah. So you don't have any secrets for maintaining a balance and somehow dealing with those ankle injuries.
انه في therapists يعني عرفت وكتير accessible. عرفت؟ وفي medication اذا حدا بحب يروح الروت. انا صار لي 10 سنين باخذ سيروكسات بجنن. عرفت؟ بعد اكيد obviously في قصص بتعمل لي كتير anxiety، بس انه اكيد ولا مره رح اكون عم بعمل anxiety لانه والله غنيه ما عم تنجح، ايه ما راح اكون مبسوط. بفضل الغنية تنجح لانه it adds to my portfolio and it's a nice ego boost and it feels nice to have millions of people resonate with something that you created. بس at the end of the day ما في فورميلا اصلا that predicts اذا شيء راح يمشي ولا لا. يعني بالنهاية انت حتى انا ما بجرب اعمل شيء مع الانتنشن انه تضرب الغنية. انا الانتنشن انه يوصل الايموشنال مسج خيي، عرفت؟ هلا العالم حسوه ما حسوه كذا وهيك، يعني في سنكليار فاكتور خيي، في فاكتورز بلا طعمه، مثل مثلا انه بجولاي ستريمينج كله بيقشط لانه العالم بيكونوا عم they're not commuting كفايه على شغلهم سو ما عم يعملوا ستريمينج، عرفت؟ قصص هيك انه كتير يعني ما في يسيطر على الموضوع. انه ايه ما راح ازعل، عرفت؟ انه ايه بفضل الغنية تجيب 50 مليون بدل ما تجيب نص مليون، بس انه ما راح اعمل انهيار over it.
Okay, this sounds like the advice I needed for me صراحة. So I appreciate it. Okay, you want to play a little bit of the Nassif Zeytoun one?
I would love to. Let's play it.
حبة وحابب إلا قديش بحس إلا ويلي متلاهي والله خلصوا بهالأيام عيونا شو ارتحت لهم وحكيا غيرن كلهم ويلي متلا بس موجودين بالأحلام موجودين بالأحلام بالأوهام بالمنام يلي متلا موجودين بالأحلام موجودين بالأحلام بالأوهام بالمنام يلي متلا موجودين بالأحلام.
So when you're listening to this, what is your emotional reaction to this?
My emotional reaction على شيء أنا بكون عامله is inherently gonna be different من إنه حدا عم يسمع الشغلة، لأنه يعني ما بعرف، يعني القرد بعين أمه غزال، إنه أنا بحسها كتير حلوة. يعني حتى في كتير قصص مثلا العالم ما بيحبوها وأنا عاملها، أنا بحسهم حلوين لأنه بكون أنا عاملهم. So I enjoy it as something I created, but it's very difficult for me to feel the actual emotional message of the song.
If you were to put together a 5-track list, must listen to tracks from the genre of Arab pop, what would that track list be?
اوكي لو ما اكون كتير شايف بحالي بس رح احط غنية واحدة منهم جوات من تبعي. اوكي سو
بيطلع لك وحده.
اكيد بلا ما نحس لازم تنسمع. انا عن جد كثير بحب هيدي الغنية.
وفي إلك شو بحس لك ونبطل أصحاب وتبرم فينا الدنيا فجأة ونصفي أغراب.
other stuff في حاجات نانسي عجرم الغنية بتاخد التوزيع هذه شرارة بيقتل قد منه حلو. عن جد يعني it was mind blowing وقت نزلت هذه الغنية.
في حاجات تتحس وما تتقلش وإن جيت أطلبها أنا ما أقدرش.
كيفك أنت إنه ما حدا في يسمع إنه يقول بدي أسمع أغاني عربي وما يسمع كيفك أنت.
آخر مرة شفتك سنت تذكر وقتها آخر كلمة قلتها وما عيدت شفتها.
وعم جرب ما يكونوا كمان الاثنين الباقيين عملهم زياد الرحباني رو كتير صعب ما يكونوا زياد الرحباني. شو بدنا نقول؟ صعب كتير هالسؤال. زياد برجي شو حلو. This is يعني a really good template of really simple, really innocent, really feel good pop song with no strings attached, and it did incredibly well.
شو حلو حبيبي شو حلو هالقمر شوفوا ما أجمله.
And let's go with something older or something newer. Let's go with Georges Wassouf, بيحسدوني, because هيك it's so different from everything else. It's طرب, but it's also pop because it's really popular.
بيحسدوني لما بضحك وبيقولوا لي يا بختك.
Okay, the last question is, where do you think most of the best pop songs are coming out of across the Arab world?
Right now?
Both? Yeah, right now.
Egypt.
Whether it's... Okay, so tell me why.
Their dialect helps because they have one of the best dialects in Arabic music to write songs to. And it's a huge territory, so there are a lot of incredible music makers doing their thing. And they have a massive history of creating hits and a very rich musical heritage. And I think that's being used in tandem with their new crossover of more street music into the mainstream to create something that's very interesting and very appealing to all of the region. Mahraganat did wonders for the culture, even though it faced a lot of backlash. But I don't think we would have Egyptian hip hop, which is very popular right now, if it weren't trampolined by Mahraganat. But we also wouldn't have things like the current shape of Arabic of Egyptian pop, if not for Mahraganat and Egyptian hip hop and tarab back then and Egyptian pop throughout the years. That whole mix is just creating something really dope and really interesting. And I really recommend anyone who would like to listen to Arabic pop right now to listen to a lot of Egyptian music.
Interesting. Actually, I wanted to ask you real quick before we log off. I heard the story of you like hearing Zef on the side of the street and thinking he had potential. Is this true, or is this like folklore?
No, it's true. But that was even before I became a producer. I was out with my family. I was quite young. I think I was like 15 or 16. I was out with my family in Jebel. We were going to a restaurant, and he was busking. He'd been busking for a while. He does it because he likes it, not...
Yeah.
مش معطر يعني مجبور يعملها. عرفت او عاملها بروفيشنال عم يتسلى. We saw him on the street and he was singing. There was a whole lot of people around him and he was singing really well. يعني it was impressive. قد كان صوته حلو, قد كان performance تبعه حلوة وحضوره حلو. He was my age, so I just talked to him and I told him, you sound dope, you're incredible. I love what you do. I think you're gonna be huge someday. And then a few years later اجى لعندي على استوديو مع أنطوني من Adonis to produce a song, وما كنا عارفين بعض. يعني رجعنا عرفنا بعض بعدين بعد ما اشتغلنا الغنية إنه نحن هول الاثنين يلي التقوا بجبال بوقتها. Very interesting.
I love the idea of him saying to you, "Look, you have great taste. You're also going to be huge one day."
Yeah.
Okay, we have this quick Q&A.
Cool.
I'm only going to ask you one of the questions. Do you have time?
Yeah,
a few minutes?
Of course.
Okay, let's do all four of them if I can.
Cool.
So for the quick Q&A, the first question is, what are you listening to right now?
What am I listening to right now? تعرف هلا right now nothing specific غير a playlist that I put on كل يوم عشية اسمها Feel Good Dinner على سبوتيفاي. صار لي سنة ما بسمع غير هيدا البلاي ليست صراحة. غير إنه listening to stuff on the charts to see what's out there etc. وكذا وهيك. بس كل نهار بكون عم بعمل موسيقى وكتير مركز and it's a very active process. وعشية I need something that I can listen to passively and that's just gonna put a good vibe in my house. So I'm mainly listening to this playlist right now.
Nice.
Hmm.
Who would you love to shadow for a day, past or present?
Shadow for a day. Max Martin أكيد. For a day,
Yeah.
for a year, a month بشتغل عنده هلا. Max إذا عم تسمع, if you're hiring أنا مستعد.
You're
Intern.
And we're back to the Backstreet Boys.
ما مش معقول مش معقول الزلمة موسيقته شو حلوة. No.
Yeah.
خوات.
It's funny because like going back to that idea of like being a hit maker, just not overcomplicating things, getting straight to the idea, music that is challenging, but not too much, just like a sprinkle of challenging, right?
I don't think that's what it is.
What is it then? How do you make a hit?
Again, you try to convey the emotional message properly and you pray to the God that you believe in, or as you don't believe in God, you don't pray, you hope, okay? إنه العالم يحسوا الشيء اللي أنت عم جرب تحسسهم إياه. عرفت؟
Yeah.
إنه في كتير
It's funny.
في كتير hits that are very 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 complicated يعني. عرفت؟ إنه مش كل الأغاني اللي الهيتس هينين.
Yeah. It's so funny. I'm hearing you talk about this. Obviously, I've written 0 hits in my life, right? And I fundamentally misunderstand this. I mean, you've said this sentence to me like maybe 15 times in this interview. And no, Mikey, اسمع مني. It's about the emotion.
صح. Flight of the Bumblebee, okay? منا هيني, can you sing it?
Yeah, I mean, I could try, but and
Try.
I won't force
please.
it.
No, please.
Like that type of thing.
بس ما غنت ولا نوت. عرفت شو قصدي؟ لما هي كتير صعبة. It's impossible to sing.
صح.
Yet everybody has Flight of the Bumblebee inside of their psyche because it sounds like a flight of a of a swarm of bumblebees. You know, خلاص the emotional message is conveyed. It's a very complex piece of music. It's incredibly hard to play. It's incredibly hard to sing. It's a hit.
Yeah. No emotion, no hit.
Yeah.
Do all successful pop stars understand that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
What do people most misunderstand about your work?
هلا نحن عنا بالعالم العربي the Arabic terminology for producer is موزع, which translates directly to arranger in English. بس الفكرة not a lot of people understand هذا الترم شو بيعني, إنه شو عم بتوزع بالتحديد. يعني if you're not in the industry, you really don't understand what is it a producer does, لأنه بالنسبة لك في كلام ولحن. Because most people only really hear the vocal melody, the music that's around it. That's, you know, just an atmosphere that's happening around the vocal, you know. فبيعتبروا إنه إذا أوكي في ملحن وفي شاعر, طب أنت what is it that you do? And it's very hard to explain that, you know, I sort of build the song and the melody is sort of just like the top line, the vocal line, and everything else is something that I create. ومش لأنه موزع makes it very different to explain, لأنه عن جد شو عم موزع. عرفت؟ At the end إنه صرت I was defaulting to saying بوزع غاز, بوزع whatever. عرفت شو قصدي؟
Yeah. Yeah, it is really interesting to try to explain that. What did you misunderstand about what a producer was? Like if I was speaking to that kid who was on Fruity Loops,
I thought they made much more money. يعني عن جد إنه أنا هلا كتر خير الله, يعني I managed to build myself a steady career. إنه I do this for a living, and you know it's a glamorous job, it's a great job. يعني I'd rather be doing this than anything else in the world. But honestly, like 10 years ago, I really thought I'd be much, much, much wealthier than I am right now.
Popping bottles.
Not necessarily, just, you know, financially stable at least. انه عامل سنكليار هيت ريس, انه ليه بعدني عم بستأجر. عرفت؟
all the parents who are listening right now, discouraging their sons and daughters from going into artistic careers, forget he just said that. It's an extremely stable career.
لا خليهم يروحوا يعملوا حكام رئيس. انا امي كان بداينا اعمل حكيم، كان لازم نسمع منه. حكيم تجميل، تعرف قد ايه بيعملوا مصاري رئيس؟ ما في emergencies وعارف شو، عرفت انه تساكي a cozy gig
وبلا هيت.
وبلا
Not even one. Okay.
لا عم بمزح، بس انه انه I think it was more for producers and industry professionals, industry creators. I think back then it was يعني كانت بتطلع مصاري اكتر، كانت الاندستري فيها مصاري اكتر، لا هو للناس. هلا it's sort of different.
Last question. What artist from the past would be your dream collaborator?
Michael Jackson اكيد king of pop. انه
Yeah.
واذا بدي اتفلسف وهيك I would have loved to work with Miles Davis at some point.
Yeah. Man, so fun talking to you. If anyone's interested in listening to your music, it is all over the place, all up and down the charts, online. Indie hits, we barely talked about any of the indie stuff that you've done, so we're going to have a follow-up conversation to talk about that. All right, man. Thank you so much.